You might not see it yet, but something is shifting beneath our feet. A silent rotation, a recalibration of value that most investors, most people, have not noticed. I feel it, humming in the background. A quiet storm. AI isn't just the next technological leap. It's the reason capital, that old river of hope and fear, is searching for a shore it barely recognizes. If you're here, listening, maybe you've watched the red candles. Maybe you felt the sting as Bitcoin tumbled, felt the unease as the narratives repeated. It's just a cycle. It's tight liquidity. It's risk assets. But is that really all? These explanations, they're not wrong, but they feel so incredibly small for something so seismic. The market is using an old map for a new territory, and that, I think, is the mistake. Before we dive deeper, if you feel this current, if you sense things are changing, tap subscribe to Crypto 101 Central. Let's explore the unknown together and ring the bell so you don't miss the next moment when the game changes. Most treat this downturn like every other. Bitcoin, they say, is just a high beta tech trade. When the Nasdaq moves, Bitcoin moves even harder. For years, that was truth. A truth I watched unfold again and again. Bitcoin rising with the fever of software stocks, falling even harder with every cooling breeze from Wall Street. But what if? What if this pattern is dissolving? Not with a crash, but with a quiet structural shift. Let me take you back. 15 years ago, after the financial crisis, interest rates fell to zero. Suddenly, money was water, flowing everywhere and rewarding one thing above all: scalable code. The best companies weren't those with factories, with warehouses, or vast armies of workers. They were lines of code, a piece of software reaching millions at almost no extra cost. The beauty of code. You write it once. It scales forever. Recurring revenue, margins near paradise, cash flows as predictable as sunrise. Wall Street fell in love. They crowned the coders. SaaS companies became gods, trading at revenue multiples once thought absurd. 20, 30, even 40 times, not on profits but on promise. It felt so stable, so permanent. But somewhere along the way, Bitcoin was lumped in. Another digital dream. A risk-on, high-octane bet. No one sat down and said, yes, Bitcoin is software. But the classifications of capital, like rivers cut through stone, were slow and indifferent. Bitcoin moved with growth until the pattern was gospel. But here, today, that framework is breaking down, dissolving under the relentless light of a new reality. I see it because I live for patterns, for echoes from the past. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, almost musically, if you listen close. For a century, markets crowned first the kings of steel and oil. Their moats were physical, built of capital intensity and concrete. Then code toppled the old titans, ushering in margins without matter, networks with the soft pressure of ones and zeros. The reward went to intellectual capital, a mote of the mind, not muscle. But now, I sense a third turning. Intelligence itself is becoming abundant. The spark that made code precious is now available on demand. AI, the shimmering dream of science fiction, is flooding the world with thought, with cognitive power once reserved for the mighty. When abundance arrives, the moat disappears. As the market processes this, most take the surface view. AI is bullish for tech, they say. But when intelligence is free, when anyone, anywhere, can spin up an agent to do what teams once did for a fortune, does the old defensibility survive? 5 years ago, SaaS companies owned their space. Their code did what none other could, and users were trapped by friction, by switching costs. Now, AI is turning that moat to mist. If everyone can replicate your core, how do you keep them out? You don't. Defensibility bleeds away, not in a crash, but in a drip. Margins compress, multiples shrink. Revenue holds for now, but the threat is existential. Tech companies aren't dying, at least not today. They grow, they adapt, but they do so against the drumbeat of an uneasy question. Can they defend what made them special? Many, if they are honest, just don't know. The acceleration is supersonic, Elon Musk's term, a tsunami ripping sideways. Open source models, once the domain of million-dollar labs, now run on laptops. A single apartment, a single coder, can challenge what once took a corporation. The money, all $650 billion of it pouring into data centers, burns for scale that may never return a profit. If your multiple is 30 times revenue and your user can do 80% of your work for free, what are you worth? This isn't panic. It's mathematics. As defensibility collapses, capital obeys its own secret gravity. It doesn't vanish. It moves. Maybe it goes to value. Maybe to minerals, to physical things, energy, copper, lithium, anything close to the earth. But those assets cycle. They ride waves but do not shape the tide. The world's capital, most of it, still wants to believe in forever growth. It seeks a new growth asset, something with old promises but new immunity. Smash that, like, if this is making sense, if you feel that call for something lasting. And tell me, have you changed how you see Bitcoin, or is this still nonsense? I want to hear what you feel, what you fear. For now, Bitcoin, our digital outlier, is still lumped in with the rest. It is in that same growth bucket by name, if not by nature. It moves with software stocks, shivers with every NASDAQ tremor. But that story, I believe, is growing stale. Bitcoin is not a margin business. There is no revenue to compress, no moat for AI to breach, no employees for algorithms to replace. No competitor can offer you Bitcoin at a discount by outcoding its core. 21 million. That is all there will ever be. It is not about being different for its own sake. Gold is different. Cash is different. Farmland too. But Bitcoin? Bitcoin is scarcity beamed through math, cryptographically capped, decentralized, immune. In a world where every moat is washed away by intelligence, Bitcoin's moat is untouched. AI makes intelligence infinite. It does not, cannot, make more Bitcoin. This, I think, will be the defining tension of our age. Scarcity, true, enforced, and programmable, becomes the rarest treasure, the gem that all rivers of capital long for when everything else floods. $650 billion into software buys you the anxiety of defending what cannot hold. Commodities spike and fade, but Bitcoin stands. No dilution, no replication, no hidden inflation. There is irony in this. As AI grows, as threats become almost mythic, agents that never sleep, cyber intrusions that slip through every seam, what remains unbreakable? Not the code of corporations, but the code built for decentralization, for perfect resistance. Bitcoin. AI will only make its security ever more vital. Its value, I believe, will rise precisely as other fortresses fall. I do not say this as dogma. I say it as a witness, as one shaped by sitting in boardrooms, by building, by loving, by fearing, by riding storms of capital with hands that have felt both greed and grace. I am a partner in a fund, yes. Our investors are real people, anxious and hopeful as everyone. They want performance, quarterly and yearly. They do not have the luxury of philosophy when the market convulses. When models demand rebalancing, they sell, not with deliberation, but because they must. The market structure is built on forced moves, bucketing capital by patterns already obsolete. So trillions, yes, trillions, are allocated to growth engines powered by the old myth of software's invincibility. That myth is dying. The money needs a new home. Some leaves for value, some for physical things, yes. But the largest part, the part that cannot leave the growth bucket, needs something that can promise growth while staying immune to AI's flood. Up until now, Bitcoin did not seem like the answer. But that is changing. Once the world sees that Bitcoin is the only thing in the growth corner that remains unbreakable, something irreversible will happen. Capital will rotate, quietly first, then in a rush. Scarcity. Only scarcity cannot be commoditized by AI. Only scarcity endures when everything else can be endlessly replicated. That's the investment question of our decade. What is truly provably scarce? Overnight, the rulebook flips. Now, markets will reward what can never be cloned, never be cheapened by algorithm or copycat. Bitcoin passes this test, utterly. 21 million. Nothing more. No clever coder can change the number. Its moat is mathematical. Its supply enforced not by fiat, not by promise, but by every node in a decentralized web that no one can bribe or hack. And as AI reshapes every business, compresses every margin, Bitcoin's absence of vulnerability stands out like a beacon in a night full of flickering, dying stars. If the world keeps treating Bitcoin as tech beta, as just another risk-on asset, it will stay volatile, dragged down with every tech sell-off. But when the market finally sees the truth, that AI is repricing every growth asset on Earth except this one, then the flow reverses. Bitcoin is revalued not because of a meme or story, but because of its essence. Fixed, verifiable, untouchable scarcity in an era of infinite plenty. Long-term, AI does not weaken Bitcoin. It elevates it, marks it as the rarest thing in a sea of sameness. This decade, the last, was the era of scalable code. The next will reward only scarcity you can prove mathematically. When you sense this shift, nothing in your portfolio will look the same again. If you're ready to go further, if you want to understand even more about what makes Bitcoin uniquely volatile and uniquely valuable, there's a video linked here you cannot miss. Watch it, and let's keep searching together. Don't forget to hit that bell so you're always part of this journey. Until next time.